Okay, so now let's get on to the next topic. Let's talk about The View. So the other day we came on and we talked a bit about there was a whole situation that was going on where Alyssa Farah Griffin and Whoopi Goldberg got into it because it was something they were talking about what's going on over in Iran and this whole thing. And people sitting out here because one person said this at my job yesterday because we had training for like if there was any kind of a bomb threat, active shooter, like that sort of thing, and what we need to do in that time frame. So I had to do my training for that before I had to work the concert that I worked. But anyway, so one of my coworkers says to me, "Oh, because Iran's going to be attacking us," and I'm sitting there. Oh, I ain't want to go into my politics because y'all already know. Well, I'd have been like, "But wait a minute." So Iran's only trying to threaten to attack us because we're asserting ourselves in a war that Netanyahu wants us to go fight for him because he's the one that's out here starting wars with people. Iran didn't do nothing to any of us, including Israel. Israel been out here poking the bear and starting fights with people, and then when they get the lashing. And when somebody fights them back, because Bibi is a damn warmongering Zionist and an Islamophobe, then all of a sudden you want to assert us against something. He's been trying to get all of our presidents for the past 30 years to go to war for him. Trump's the only idiot willing to do it because, it don't take much for his slow behind to get caught up in some mess. So there was a conversation that was had. Then it was about like the mistreatment of women in Iran. I had gotten caught up in that conversation, and I think what I will say is this: after watching the video, because this is what I should have watched the clips. I was looking for the clips online, couldn't find it. Then I realized the Neighborhood Talk. After I did the episode, the Neighborhood Talk happened to have a clip, so I wound up watching that, and I was like, you know what? I think I went a little too harsh on Whoopi and what she had to say in that comment. So I will say this: I apologize. Y'all know I will come online and if I'll admit if I'm wrong. So I feel like, yeah, if we're gonna sit and talk about things that's going on in, the way women are treated and everything in Iran versus what's going on in the US, there's different situations. Although I will say this, I do feel like women are being treated way worse now, especially when we talk about abortion or, a lot of laws that's being rolled back for women, trans issues and stuff, and women where it's like there was a woman who I think had died. She was kept on life support because she was pregnant because I think in the state that she lives in, they're against abortion. So they kept her body on life support until they could deliver the child. And then so you're keeping a dead body alive because and the baby could have all kinds of issues because y'all worrying about we need to bring the life into the world. But once the life is here, what's going to happen to the baby? Who's going to take care of it? So it's like y'all sit up here and try to police women's bodies and tell them what they need to do. But then when the baby comes, then all of a sudden it's like you're on your own. Like that mentality doesn't make sense to me because y'all trying to merge church and state into our politics and all of a sudden we should not be mixing religion, whichever religion you believe, into our political stuff. But because evangelicals pump so much money into our politics and the politicians, they're trying to move things in place where they have control and full autonomy over women's bodies. And that should not be something that should be allowed. Women shouldn't be allowed to make whatever decision that they need to make about their body without you telling them what to do. If you don't want to, if you're against abortion, don't freaking have one. If you're against homosexuals, don't fuck with somebody that's gay. Don't get into a same-sex relationship. Mind your business. But so there's some people out here who can't mind the business that pays them, that because they're miserable and they don't like something and they don't agree with something, they want all of y'all to just follow along. When you pump your damn kids out, you tell them what to do. You don't tell me what to do. I'm a grown-ass man. And just like with not just me, but anybody else in general, let live and let live. That's how I always see it. So I do have the clip in case y'all didn't see it because there was this whole thing about Whoopi where she said black people in America have it just as bad as people in Iraq. I mean in Iran. And you want to know something? After watching the video, I will say that like I said before, I apologize. I take it back. Whoopi was absolutely correct in what she said. I feel like she didn't really articulate it the way it needed to be articulated, and it could have been because it was pushback. And then she spent too much time trying to coddle Alyssa's feelings because they don't always women make the black girl going after the poor little white girl. But I feel like if you're gonna step in the ring with me, sis, you better have them boxing gloves on and you better be ready to go toe to toe because I'm not curtailing your feelings. Like I'll be respectful in the debate, but I'm not gonna sit up in here and handle you with kid gloves because I'm saying something and then you're saying something and you're not agreeing. So, but also I think people was getting mad at Alyssa because they felt like she was kind of being dismissive of what Black people go through in the United States. And so, in case y'all didn't see it, I do have that clip. We're going to, courtesy of the Neighborhood Talk, so shout out to them. We're going to play that clip, and then we're going to come back, and then we'll talk. Please hold.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today,
I'm sorry,
is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging Black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit into Toronto.
Listen, I'm sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good. Whoever does it, it's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant. I
think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're Black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're Black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at the table to go to Tehran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But yeah, I know that. And we all know that. But every day we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals. And I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot
talking about the United States.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent. But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country, and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. Listen, I'm sorry. When you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe.
They can't go out of their house. Women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
Let me try something. It's like try to reverse roles with a Black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just try to understand from their point of view. From that point of view, this country does not do them well. Does not go for them.
I completely acknowledge that.
And we shouldn't compare atrocities.
If you're talking about Iran, of course, is doing worse things. But relatively speaking, it feels bad.
Okay, but I think you know that Iran is significant.
I guess we're going to come back and talk.
I was in college.
Okay, so I feel like y'all got the point. There was going to be a lot of cross-talking, all this stuff, but I feel like if I'm sitting there trying to explain to you, it's like, when nobody's diminishing what's going on in Iran and what people deal with, particularly if you're a woman or if you're someone who is a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but you also have to realize that not a lot of people, I'll say like even me, I'm someone who pays attention to what goes on outside the United States because I'm heavily into politics and watching a lot of the stuff that goes on. So I'm aware of what's going on in the world, not what legacy media is spoon feeding y'all in regards of this Israel-Iran conflict, which very much is a war that Israel has started and wants to get us involved in the mess because Bibi is a warmongering piece of shit. But they're not going to say that on The View because The View is all about pomp and circumstance and fluff and a lot of just stuff. It's all about the viral moment and whatever the case. So they're not going to have no real deep comment. You already know that when you watch something like The View is entertainment, they're about as deep as a pond over there. And they don't really have anything substantial to offer on the show. But it's entertaining. So if you want to go and you want to get the real tea, you got to be able to go to people like Kyle Kalinske, things of that nature, or Crystal Ball, people who are actually really talking about what's going on in this war for real, and even Sabby Sabs. There's very few people on social media, right, or in the independent media space that are really, and of course myself, when I'm telling y'all a lot of what's going on, when we get into the political stuff, what's really happening and not the stuff that legacy media is feeding you because of who the corporations that are behind and these billionaires that are behind a lot of these news conglomerates and what they want y'all to learn in regards to what's happening in politics. But Yeah, but we'll get to Sarah's thing in a moment, but I wanted to lay all this down. So it's just like, yeah, Whoopi was absolutely right, because she's like, yeah, that what's happening in Iran, there are people in America who don't really pay attention to what's going on worldwide. I have a clear understanding that don't feel like they could just walk down the street or whatever and feel safe and not have to worry about their kid possibly being killed by a person of authority or women whose bodies are being policed. She's like, oh, I can't walk around Iran with my hair and my arms and stuff exposed. That may be true, but in America, we have laws that are put in place. They sneaking them in, and if you go to certain states, yeah, if you're in a blue state, you ain't got to worry about it. If you're in California, if you're in New York, if you're in a place like that, you ain't got to worry about these things. But if you're in like some small little town or red state, there are laws that are put in place where it's like women do not have full autonomy of their bodies. There are places where people have to cross state lines to get an abortion. So you may be able to show your arms and have your titties damn near out and hanging on your knees in America. But when we're talking about having full control and autonomy over a woman's body, those are the things that we have to be put in place. But yeah, when you're on The View, they only get like a certain amount of minutes where they could talk. So they're not going to be able to go and do a full deep dive on that type of conversation because, like I said, they only have a short amount of time and they're not going to get really deep on that show. So in regards to what Sara Haines said, because I don't know if y'all probably heard what she said in the background, because she was basically saying like women in Iran don't really have, a lot of authority, whatever the case is. So she basically posted, and one thing that irritates me is when y'all like to post little apologies and stuff in your stories, because that shit expires in 24 hours and nobody, and if and I always say, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. So that's why I don't like when y'all do apologies in the stories, because it's like, oh, I apologize. You got to catch it when you catch it. If you don't, or, unless somebody from one of the major trades or whatever brings it up, like Entertainment Weekly, shout out to y'all, because I didn't know about the apology until Entertainment Weekly posted it on their page. Then that's when we hear about it. So Haines shared a statement in her Instagram story after a fiery discussion of the conflict between Israel and Iran between the hosts during Hot Topics, the opening segment of the ABC daytime program. She said, yesterday on the show, I spoke about the treatment of girls and women in Iran and misspoke by conflating the theoretic rule of the Ayatollah in Iran and the Taliban's control of Afghanistan. To clarify, girls and women in Afghanistan are currently banned from attending school, while in Iran, women do have access to education and make up a significant portion of university students. And it's funny how she's mentioned that, because I had people in my comments when I first talked about this that said what she's saying. And I was like, what is she talking about? Because first of all, women in Iran there's a lot of highly educated Iranian women in that country. And there seems to be a significant amount more women who go to college than men. Now, on Wednesday's show, we already talked about the bulk of the debate was between Whoopi and Alyssa, where Griffith condemned the atrocities in Iran against its people, saying, let's just remember the Iranians literally throw gay people off buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights. And what she need to also realize that there's trans people in the United States are under fire. There was, I forget the trans politician's name. I think she's a senator. She was like, I feel like my life is in danger every day. We hear so many stories. Well, maybe y'all don't hear it because the mainstream media is not talking about it. But when I see people like Here's Why with Kevin and Gay Magazine or whoever, when they go and post stories, some of the Instagram channels that I follow, they post stories about, and then we hear Angelica Ross and oh my God, I forgot her damn name, Laverne Cox. And so, when they get up there and they start talking about a lot of the trans girls that get unalived in America for being who they are, especially when there's trans women of color being under attack. There was, they had a recent gay bar raid, wasn't it, in Pennsylvania that we talked about maybe like 2 months ago? There was some guy that was going around going after gay men or whatever the case was. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Like, we got to be safe on these streets. And with this being Pride Month and the big Pride Parade, I believe next Sunday, like, we got to be on guard heavily in the United States, because it's dangerous out in these streets. And There are people trying to crack down on and taking out loud. We could talk about Matthew Shepard, Brandon Tina, like those stories of queer people who were, remember when he was beaten to death and hung on, you know, what was it, like tied to a fence or whatever. The Brandon Tina story, where she was a trans man. Well, Brandon Tina's a trans man who was assaulted and killed. So there's been many stories about, like I said, trans people of color, queer people who have been whose lives have been taken in this country for being who they are. There've been a lot of lynchings and things of that nature that kind of go underreported. Remember, we heard about the twin boys who were hiking or whatever. They said that they was out hiking or whatever, and they were murdered. And they tried to cover that story up. And the parent was like, that don't make no sense because they had a ticket, like they had tickets that they were supposed to be coming home. Why would they take their own life? Kind of found out there was some man that was behind the whole situation and took their life and tried to set it up like they tried to kill themselves or whatever. So human rights, basic human rights, is under attack in this country. And I think that someone like Alyssa sits in a place of privilege where she doesn't have to worry about her life being in danger, because you don't have to go to Iran, you don't have to go to Iran, you don't have to go to Afghanistan, you don't have to go to all these other places. So you out here trying to windmill hard for a group of people that you probably wouldn't spit on if you was on fire. I don't feel like that was a conversation you should have. But then also another thing that irritates me about Sara, I like you, sis, you were part of the Virgo brigade, because she is a Virgo. I think she's September 15th to 16th, 14th, one of them days, mid-September, I'll say. The way you be going windmilling hard for Alyssa on the show sometimes, I'm like, girl, would you just like let her fight her own battles? Like, I'm like, you want to eat her pussy or something? Like, literally, I be saying that at the TV sometimes. You know, us people of color, we watch stuff, and when we get in our bag about things, we yell at the TV. I'm very much Jada Pinkett in Scream 2. Bitch, hang up the phone and star 69 her ass. Yeah, that's me. So, and you have to tell me to shush. That's why I watch TV by myself, because I will talk. So, Sara, sometimes I'll be like, okay, you don't always have to come to Alyssa's defense. Alyssa should be able to get up there and defend herself too. And I feel like Alyssa just be misinformed in a lot of things as well. And just because you worked for Trump during his first term, and I think that's the only reason why they hired her, because they felt like she would have some inside information. But girl, you're not living up to the gig. And so, yeah, she said that when I just realized I didn't even finish reading the whole thing that she said. She said, when referencing education, I was speaking specifically about access under authoritarian regimes, not the capabilities or achievements of Iranian women. I want to be clear. I was not implying that women of Iran are uneducated or making any pejorative generalizations. Well, you did, Blanche, you did, because it did come across like you basically said that women, the way it came across was like very much like women in Iran were uneducated. And I think they dragged her ass to the point. She's like, damn, now I got to make a statement. Now, she concluded her statement by reiterating the concerns that drove her to make her remarks. She said, I would not want to be a woman living under the current regimes in either Iran or Afghanistan. Despite their differences, both governments impose serious restrictions on women's rights and freedoms. Well, maybe we need to focus on what's happening in America as well, because we have our government that's trying to impose serious restrictions on women's rights and freedoms that we're combatively fighting this government on every day. I mean, it was happening under the Democratic situation too, but now with Project 2025 in full effect, we're starting to see the ramifications of a lot of what Trump's people are trying to put in place, especially going after women. Because I do feel like it should be a woman's right to choose. And why we wasn't going in on Biden about that just as much as everybody's going in on Trump. And I think it's because, and I'm not letting Trump off the hook, but I think it's because his regime is all about, you know, coming in like a wrecking ball than with a scalpel, which is what Democrats are good at. Democrats will come in and they like to cut a little bit, where it's like you don't notice until it's so obvious that they can't hide it, and then they got to get in front of it, and then they gag. But the Republicans like, I don't give a damn. We coming in like a wrecking ball with Miley Cyrus sitting on top of it, and we were just going to wreck shop. And that's what pisses people off, because then it's like, when it's at a point where you can't do nothing but notice, then people want to go in and let have. So I say all this to say, y'all, what do you guys think of this story in regards of, you know, what Sara Haines had to say in that whole clip? Because I was like, yeah, I had to give context. And that's what I'm going to have to start doing when I do these type of articles. I really have to come in with all the context, so that way I know what I'm talking about, so I'm not out here looking like a fool. But look, if I make a mistake, I'm willing to own up to it. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.